Hey, I'm back. Same location as the ending of the last recap. I'm actually out here at my friend's little private lake. I got my roundabout down there and my tackle trailer to get from the parking lot to the lake so I don't have to like lug all the stuff. But there's no wind. It's probably 92 degrees and super hot. So I just took my lunch break and figured I'd film this recap, but in the shade because there's no shade on the lake. So I'm right next to the lake, but yeah, I've already caught some fish today, so that's cool. This is going to be the recap for, what is it, April and May, and it's going to lean really heavy towards one particular bait. Because in March I found out that the Hookup Tackle and Bait Sanity were doing a online tournament that goes all the way actually till June 21st, so I'm still not done with it. So I don't know, warning you ahead of time, you're going to see a lot of fish caught on the Bait Sanity Explorer Gill glide bait. But before I explain even more, why don't you watch the first bite of the day from April. What is it, bite number 213? This is actually my first fish on this bait and the first fish as a part of the tournament on Rainbow River. There we go, finally. So yeah, like I said, there's going to be a lot of this bait. There's actually, I have two versions. I only have the one with me. There's sinking, and this is the floating. The sinking one I bought in the dark bluegill color. I'll put a picture of it here. I just forgot to bring it with me out today. I meant to, but I wish I had it. But so yeah, I found out that the Hookup Tackle is going to do this tournament with Bait Sanity, all based around this new glide bait they put out, which I was wanting to buy anyway, and I just hadn't bought it. But since I found about this tournament, some reason to buy it, I bought it. And I ended up buying another one because I wanted a sinking and a floating. So yeah, this was the first day with this bait. I was on Rainbow River, where I love to glide bait fish, as you guys know. And I finally tied it on and threw it out there near one of my favorite docks. And pretty much as soon as it landed, maybe 2.5 reel turns in, I got nailed. It looked super shallow there. Rivers are tricky. So this river is clear, so you can actually go look. And at some point I got snagged and went up. And so the water gets deeper right at the bank there. There's kind of a current going right along the bank and under that dock. So it's like maybe a foot deep, 20 feet out or whatever, 30 feet out from the bank. But when you get like 5 feet out, it's like 3 feet deep. And it's like right between those two docks. And I found a lot of times they're fishing there. I didn't know that's why they were sitting there until I figured it out, because I think I got a lure stuck back there one day. You got to go get your swim bait if you get stuck. And I think I've mentioned this before, that most of my glide bait bites come either as an ambush or immediately after it hits the water. It's a reaction bite, almost. I do get some conversions. We'll get to that in a little bit. But since I'm going to be talking about this bait and this setup a lot, I'll do a little bit in each little segment. It's my Dobbins Fury 806. That's 8 foot 6 power, so that's like a 8 foot moderate heavy in normal rod speak, with my Shimano Corrado 200 with the Gomexus handle. Like I said, we're going to be talking about this even more. The next bite is actually another one. Yeah, but before I even go more into my tackle and setup, which isn't new, if you've been watching my channel, you know this, my swim bait setup, but since we're going to be talking about this bait a lot and the setup a lot, I figured I'll spread it out. But the second fish I got on video for you guys is an 8-pounder that I caught on this very bait. Check it out. Yes. There we go. Or like I said, there's more than one nice fish caught that day. Number 215 is the 6.5-pounder that I caught just a little later. I actually lost my measuring board on this one. It was super windy that day. But why don't you watch it? Here we go again with another one of the Hookup Sanity bites with the Bait Sanity Explorer Glide Bait. Explorer Gill Glide Bait. There you go. Check it out, number 115 or 215. Are fishing it that same day, and like I said, it was the slow and steady retrieve. Whenever you get a new glide bait, you mess around with it trying to see what it does, and it pretty much, as soon as I started throwing it around the edge of the deeper cover, if there was some coontail there and I was doing the slow and steady retrieve, is when it would get nailed. No extra movement, no twitching, no nothing, just barely moving it. And that's actually when these Gomexus handles, or one of these power handles in general. This is just the one that I ended up getting first, and I've gotten a few of them now. They're like 60 bucks off of Amazon. They have ball bearings in the knobs, and they're big round knobs, a longer reel handle. Makes a huge difference for working glide baits, because glide baits is all about the reel. And the smoother your handle is, the bigger it is, the slower you can go and the more natural it feels. Instead of like this with a little thing, you're like this, and it just feels right. It also helps you crank them in, because you really do want to get these fish in as soon as possible. They got this big piece of plastic with hooks flying everywhere, and you know, that's how you lose glide bait fish. I actually lost at least a double-digit something. I haven't put that video out, but it's coming. Another one of the ones that got away. And I was doing just like I was saying, but she bit at the very end of a bomb cast, and I just couldn't get her all the way to the boat fast enough, and she finally got her head up and shook a little, even though I was trying to keep the rod tip down. That's another thing, is if you can feel them coming up, if you can keep the forward momentum where they can't shake their head, sometimes you can just get them to skirt across the top. If you actually watch a lot of my glide bait or swim bait videos, you'll see that happening. And also, if they start to come up, put your rod tip in the water and it kind of pulls their head back down, but don't stop reeling. That's also why I put on better hooks. Not that there's anything wrong with the hooks Bait Sanity puts on here. They're actually really good hooks. I put them actually on a different bait. I just like these Teflon coated hooks, and that owner hook that sits flat on the front just lets me fish over grass a little better, I think. Might just be me, but it gives me more confidence. And I mean, catching an 8 and then a 6.5 pretty much within 10 minutes of each other was pretty awesome. I mean, it sucks that I lost my bucket mouth measuring board. I ended up having to buy an official kayak one anyway, because I plan on doing some kayak tournaments. Hopefully I'll get in touch with the bucket mouth guy again and get another one of those bragging boards roll-ups. They're just more convenient to have than the hard one if I'm not doing a tournament. But yeah, I'm going to come back to this. Like I said, there's a lot of these in the next set of bite of the day. But I think the next one is actually, well, no, wait, we're still doing it. I put this one in right after those two. This is Back at Rainbow, and this is another Hookup Sanity, Bait Sanity, Explorer Gill bass. But this one I got to convert. But why don't you watch the video? Oh yeah! Like I was saying earlier with the glide baits, most of my bites come as the bait hits the water or out of nowhere. They just smash it out of cover and just nail it. Every now and then I can get one to convert. Usually there has to be more than one fish, or I just get the right movement and I get that bass's attention. And this was one of those, and I actually couldn't believe that this worked. It being Rainbow River, you can see everything. You can see the fish coming. I saw her coming right at it. This ended up being a first of 3 really good days out there. I was actually working down in Denellen, and so I was just sneaking out on the river for a few hours here and there every day. And this fish came out of nowhere. I saw her wake up to it. You can't really see it in the video just from the angle, but I could tell I was running out of room, and then she hesitated. So I just gave 2 more quick twitches of the reel handle. And that's also when the nice bearings and the bigger handle just makes it easier to do that little reel movement. You don't have to have it, but trust me, like, I bought one of these handles thinking that's all I needed, and now I have 3. It really is nice. But yeah, to get one to convert and for it to count on the Hookup Sanity tournament. So the way the tournament works is it's all by measurement. So we might as well talk about this since we'll be seeing a lot more of these fish. I think it goes, or I know it goes by length like a kayak tournament. Anything under 20 inches is 1 point. Anything from 20.1 inches to 23.99 inches is 4 points, and anything over 24 inches is 10 points. So they really incentivize you to catch big fish. There's a different scale for smallmouth. They count too, but I don't have smallmouth, so I didn't really pay attention. But just downsized with the same points. So that 6-pounder and this 5-pounder both got me 4, and then that 8 got me 10, and then I got a couple other around under 20. So, you know, I was doing pretty good. So I was like, okay, now I'm invested in this tournament. And this is pretty much the first couple weeks, and it's like a 3-month-long tournament. So that's why there's so many of these bite of the day. But the winner of the tournament gets $1,000, and so I figured it's going to make me fish a glide bait more, which I want to learn. It's springtime, it's bluegill spawn, so throwing a bluegill bait is a good idea. And it's paid off as far as personal catches. I haven't caught a DD in the boat yet. Like I said, I lost one, but I still got time. It's not done yet. Actually caught 3 this morning already, and hoping to catch some more tonight. But yeah, that fish was around 5 pounds, 22 something inches. There was actually 2 dudes sitting on the dock watching when I caught it, and they were kind of on their lunch break, and they were hooting and hollering. It was kind of fun. Well, we're going to talk more about this bait, so let's get on to the next bite of the day, which is actually not me and actually not this bait. Not that I didn't fish this bait that day, I just didn't catch anything. It's actually my buddy Calvin. Watch me fish on Instagram. You guys have seen him before. Lake Santa Fe. Watch bite number was it 217, and then I'll tell you more. You want to drop that motor? Oh, got him?
Yeah.
That's a good fish.
Yeah, it is.
Don't reel in anymore. Don't reel in anymore. Come here, buddy.
Dude, I was just fucking around. I wholeheartedly was just fucking around, dude.
I know. Let me get a picture. I was wondering if that was you. I don't got my. So this is hilarious because we were been fishing on this like frog fishing area, and yeah, we got a couple bites and whatnot, and we were just about dark, and we were going to try to hit 1 or 2 more spots on the other side of the lake. And my boat doesn't have auto trim or tilt. That's how old and how small my motor is. It's a manual tilt. So I was asking Calvin to drop the motor. So he was just messing around, casting. Is a Strike King Rage Swimmer. I forget what setup he has. I'll list it down below. I asked him to text it to me, but I didn't get it in time to make this video. But yeah, he was just messing around, throwing that thing around the grass while we were leaving. And actually, I was looking out on the lake, and I could see a boat out there sitting on a spot, and I was pretty sure it was my buddy Brandon. And the reason I knew that is the graph I have was his old graph. I have all his old waypoints, and I looked at the graph, and I looked at and I was like, that's him. But he bought a new boat. I didn't have my prescription glasses on, so I couldn't tell 100%. But it's close to sunset, it's close to dark, and that fish just blows up as he's burning that 4-inch or 5-inch swim bait across the top of the grass, and he catches it. And that was like the nicest fish of the day by far. And you can hear Brandon yell in the background. That's a Ted Lincoln special. Because him and I have fished Lake Santa Fe together, and I always take him into the grass, into the shallows, into spots he doesn't normally fish or has never fished, some of them. And he's always taking me to the offshore spots like he was that day. So it was kind of fitting that he caught us, or witnessed us catch that fish, or Calvin catch that fish in my boat. And it's pretty fitting, a Ted Lincoln special. Yeah, it was fun. But burning a swim bait across cover is a thing in Florida. It's usually a Big Easy. And it's usually a Big Easy because it does it better than any other swim bait. Not that you can't use other swim baits. I've used plenty of others. And like he was using that Rage Swimmer. That's just what he had that day. But very light weighted or weightless EWG swim bait hook. And you just burn it across the top and the bass will just nail it as it's a fish or something, a bluegill shooting across the grass or the pads. It's a very fun way to fish. But like I said, the Big Easy is by far the standard. Even the tactical bassin guys, after fishing in Florida, they understood the reason why we like the Big Easy. It just comes through grass, great, and the grass doesn't affect the tail. The grass on Lake Santa Fe isn't too bad, so that Rage Swimmer did fine. But yeah, there's Watch Me Fish's Ted Lincoln special, bite number 217. Let's see what's next. So I got my numbers all mixed up on my notes, but I think the last one's 217, so this is 218. Where are we at? We are back on Rainbow River. So, like I said, I was working down in Denellen, and I had gotten some questions on fishing Rainbow River through one of the Facebook groups I'm in for bass fishing. And this guy, Justin, reached out to me. Actually, Calvin sent him to me, and I gave him some pointers. And then he was just like, are you down there? And I usually am not, but it just turned out that I had a few hours on Easter Sunday evening to go fishing with him or to take him out. So I went up and I met him, and he had his uncle join us. Justin's Vietnamese, his uncle's Vietnamese. I'm Filipino. So like, he's like, is it okay if my uncle comes? And like, yeah, that's how we do it too. My uncles were around and somebody was going to take me fishing, they'd try to get in the boat too, trust me. But just met him, just got on my boat. We only had maybe an hour to fish, but why don't you watch this bite and I'll explain it to you. But like I said, this morning we caught some fish and then nothing all day after that. And then I got a good one. There we go. It's a good fish. It's a good fish. This is a real good fish. But I think it's hooked sideways. Can't tell. Yeah, it's hooked sideways, but it's a big fish too.
I'm hungry, Ted.
Hour. Look at him. Here, I'm coming but to sit next to you.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Ooh.
I told you.
Look at that.
Probably about 3-4.
No, this is like a 5-6, maybe. This is more. This is like 7. That's a 7-pound bass, probably. We'll find out. That's a huge fish, man. Well, keep fishing. Don't let me stop you. So earlier this day, I had gone glide bait fishing and with my buddy Michael. Some of those catches are coming up, but this one I just had to post that day because it was so cool. I'm trying to explain, Justin's new to bass fishing and very new to fishing Rainbow River. And Rainbow River, like I've said in my other videos, is a unique fishery. You can't fish it like anything else. Not saying you won't catch something, but to catch stuff consistently, it's just a little different. And one of the things that's different is you throw a topwater any time of day, all year round, because they might be biting it. And I was just explaining that to him, throwing the gunfish again. I think I just had it tied on from earlier. Like I said, it's almost always this or the Ozuri popper, which I actually have the mini Ozuri popper tied on right now, which I don't normally fish. They were just eating small shad the last time I was out. Those are like my go-to topwaters. I love a lot of other topwaters, but those are the ones that are almost always on my... Those are the two that are almost always set up on my topwater rod, which is that Dobbins Fury 6.6 Shimano SLX XT 30-pound X9 braid to 17-pound trilene monoliter with that Hyperwire owner snap. I think I mentioned this in the last recap, that I've decided I like clips for glide baits or bigger baits, and I like the snap for topwater and jerk baits. Mostly because this particular snap is lighter, but still strong. It's that Hyperwire. I just don't trust clips that open and close for the big baits. Just trying to save money. I'll explain that when I talk about that glide bait again, because it's coming up again. But yeah, this Hyperwire, owner Hyperwire clip, actually Mikey Balls uses it for his crankbaits. I use it for my split rings. Oh look, I got a fray in my line. So you got to watch that. That's the only thing. When you use clips, you don't cut knots off and change so you don't check your line. So I got to retie before I go out. But yeah, this is my 6.6 Dobbins topwater setup. Not a normal topwater rod. It's a fast action, not moderate, but still not a broomstick. It's got more backbone than like my SLX would, or like a lower. It's got a bit more of a bend to the backbone than most medium heavies. So this is a 663C. So with Dobbins, the first number is the length in the foot length, and the second number is the inches. Got a little bug or something on my hat there. The second number is the inches, and then the third number is the power. So this is a 3 power. So it's not super heavy or fast, but it's faster than most people would use for small topwater or any topwater. This is actually for jigs and Cincos and whatnot and flukes. Nothing with treble hooks, but because I fish in cover and I want to pull these baits through the pads and grass without getting pads or grass on the hooks, I need that little extra fast action in the rod. The monoliter helps keep those treble hooks pinned a little better, and also keeps the line out of the hooks. That's the main reason I started using a monoliter on topwater, is just to keep the line out of the hooks, because it doesn't matter what kind of topwater, if it's a popper, a walker, or a prop bait or whatever, they always get stuck in the hooks. Even with the monoliter, it still does. Even with a split ring or a clip, it doesn't matter. Because you don't want to tie, most topwaters, you don't want to tie like a Palomar direct knot. You might want to do a loop knot, but I don't trust loop knots. I don't trust my loop knot. I trust a Palomar to a clip or a ring way more. Personal preference. But yeah, I was trying to show Justin how to throw a topwater on Rainbow, and this was by far the biggest fish I caught that weekend. Just sucked it down at almost 7-pounder, like right at sunset. I mean, that was pretty great. It's so funny, like I said, it was Easter dinner or Easter Sunday, and I got invited. His uncle invited me to go have dinner with him and his family, and actually it was like their employee getaway. So I got to go have like eat with a bunch of Vietnamese people, a bunch of Korean barbecue. It was very fitting. It was a lot of fun. You meet great people fishing, and it all just started with him asking me questions on what to take to Rainbow River. And one of the things I told him was some kind of small topwater, either a small walking bait or a popper. And sure enough, 7 7-pounder pretty much. It's like 6 something, just under 7. I think it's the biggest topwater fish I've caught out there in a while, like at least over a year. I mean, any time you catch a 7-pounder on topwater, it's fun. And in the clear water with that current, and yeah, I love it. I don't always have to fish big swim baits. I just like catching fish however I can. And if they're big and fun like that, it's even better. So here we are at the next one. I think it's 219. Like I said, got my numbers mixed up in my notes, but this is the next bite of the day. It's my buddy Michael. This is the same day, just earlier in the day as the topwater bite. He was fishing with me in the morning, and I went fishing with Justin in the evening. But check it out. This is his first Rainbow River glide bait fish. Second later. Yeah, I heard that. Awesome. That's a good one. Want me to grab it? Yeah, I got it. Don't reel up anymore. I want to let that rod.
Yeah, watch this.
I see him.
This hook.
I see him.
Legit. Jeez.
That's a nice one, buddy. Told you it would happen.
Yeah.
And there's Michael catching his first Rainbow River glide bait fish. We've been trying to get him to come down there. We had for over a year, and then we had trolling motor problems the day before, even had some that day, and it, you know, I was just glad that my plan to catch us a glide bait fish in the morning on a weekend, because it's crazy on the weekend, but if you get there at dawn to some of my spots before the kayakers get there, those bass will eat a glide bait. Once there gets to be a lot of people on the water, you can still catch them, but you have to kind of pare down, do more finesse techniques. They just don't want to come out for that bigger bait. It's just they're a little shy. Not saying they won't do it. It just becomes a lot harder. I think in the last recap I had one that it still hit the antidote glide right on the surface in the middle of the day on the weekend, but that was an anomaly. But yeah, this is Michael's fish. That is one of those paperweight shad glide baits. I'll list his equipment down here too. I didn't get it before I started filming this video. List what rod and reel and line he has. Yeah, this glide bait bite on Rainbow River is definitely unique. And if you've been watching my videos, you know that I love Rainbow River, and even before glide baits, it was one of my favorite places to fish. But the fact that I've been figuring out how to catch big fish on big baits, especially big hard baits there, has been fun. And you've seen Eric, Atypical Outdoors, on my channel doing it. But to get another person out there and who fishes glide baits, and it worked for him on his first day, first morning. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. Hopefully I can turn this into like part of my guide business, which I'm working on. You know, life just keeps putting up roadblocks for me to get that other boat done. So I, you know, all these reasons, but hopefully Ted Lincoln's Fishing Life's guide service is coming soon. Hopefully in 2022 still, maybe 2023. We'll see. But Rainbow River swim bait fishing is definitely going to be on my list. Like I said, we're going to see a lot more of that Bait Sanity Explorer gill. This is the same day, morning as Michael's. This is bite number 220. Why don't you watch it and I'll tell you a little more. Got one. Get out of that grass. They love to burrow in that grass. I saw him coming and then disappeared, and then All of a sudden, felt it. Nothing huge, but it's a start. This is 220, another Explorer Gill hookup Sanity tournament bite. Another medium-sized fish. And this is one of my typical ways I catch a bass, especially on rainbow, because you can see it. So I might be getting them that way other places, but you don't see everything. You'll swim it over the eelgrass pockets, and you won't think there's any fish there, and all of a sudden, out of one of those holes or out of a hole you didn't even know was there, a bass will just dart up and chomp on the glide bait. So that's what happened here. And in that clear water, this is way up from where those other rainbow fish were caught earlier, near where Michael caught his, but it's near the head spring, and the water is even clearer, and you know the fish are even meaner, I think, because of it. But it was a lot of fun. Well, so then what should we talk about now? We've talked about the bait, the rod, or the reel. I guess I'll tell you a little about why I like this rod. So this is the Dobbins Fury 806, their swim bait rod, specific. It says swim bait rod on it when you buy it. It's 8 feet long and a 6 power, moderate. I am not the first one on YouTube to talk good things about this rod. I think every time Tactical Bassin does a swim bait gear review, they mention this rod as one of the best treble hook bait swim bait rods on a budget. It's just over $100. It's 100 something, 150 I think. And if you've been paying attention to my channel, you know I don't spend a lot on rods and reels. Like most of my stuff, I don't buy the cheapest, but most of my reels are SLXs. I have one Corrado, which SLXs are like 100, 150. This is like 180. And this and my punching rod are my two most expensive rods. And they're the two rods where it makes a huge difference. So not only is this a great swim bait rod for treble hooks, it also is a very accurate rod. Like before I had this, I had a Corrado swim bait rod that Shimano made for a little while, and I broke it. I love that rod. It was a little faster action than I needed. I didn't know that till I got this, and I'm like, okay, that was a little fast. But aside from the way this fights the fish and handles the baits, it just, you know you're throwing a rod built for this kind of lure just by how easily it is to be accurate with it. You're not fighting the rod. It isn't making the bait helicopter in the air as you cast it. I heard Butch Brown saying something about that with the depth 250. If your bait 250, once you figure out how to cast it, is helicoptering, your rod isn't strong enough. I've never thrown something that big, so I can't say for sure if that's true, but I believe him. But yeah, this is a dedicated swim bait rod. It's over $100, but it's not much over 100, and it's worth it. I mean, especially if you're going to start throwing these swim baits a lot. And doing this tournament has really made me throw this a lot. And, you know, I've heard that a lot from other people talking about how to get into swim bait fishing, especially the bigger baits, is to just fish them. And this being Florida, like, I mean, I've put in my time, but it's so distracting because you could be throwing this, or I could be throwing a frog, or I could be punching, or I could be doing a topwater. But because this tournament, you know, it's over 3 months, it's made me keep this in my hand a lot longer. I don't stick to just this bait or this style. If I catch one fish on this in the morning or at some point in the day, then I feel free to like explore, but I still will throw this one as much as I can. And once you start throwing these big baits, you understand that you have to think about each cast a little different. It's not like just a square bill or, you know, a worm. where if you cast a little off, the bass might not care. These things hit the water. Even this is not a very big glide bait, but every fish around knows this hits the water. And it's got big treble hooks. And, you know, glide baits stop working as soon as you get a little tiny bit of grass on it. So you got to watch where the grass is. You got to watch where the cover is. You don't want to hook into things and blow out a spot getting your bait back, because this is like a $60 bait. I'm not going to lose it. I'm going to scare all the fish away getting it back. But it makes you think about every cast and set up for a cast. You want to fish weed line edges like parallel, not just always throwing the pockets like you would with, like, you know, a crankbait or even a topwater or whatever. So it's been a good learning process doing this tournament and making me fish this bait more. In general, big baits more. And having the rod definitely has made a big difference, the right rod. All right, what's next? Okay, next is actually another swimbait bite, but not mine. This is actually my buddy Greg, and he sponsored a trip for us to Headwaters in his new boat. He wanted to take his new boat out to Headwaters. He wanted me to go with him and try to figure it out. I'd been there once. He had never been there. And I was already fishing this tournament, and I had already caught the nicest fish of the day that day, maybe an hour before he caught this fish on the Explorer gill. Actually, no, it was on that, and it was in a spot that somebody else was already fishing. I actually don't think I had my camera on when I caught that one. So, but it made Greg pick up his rod with the Gantrell Jr. on it. But why don't you watch the video and I'll tell you more about it. Cool. Yeah. Oh, which side?
Oh, he's in the hydrilla.
Yeah, just steady pressure, steady pressure. Don't jerk. That's a good one. That's a big fish.
Yeah, bro! Bro, I saw the fucking wakers. Yeah, we can weigh this motherfucker.
Yeah. That's a nice fish. Yeah. So Greg had fished with me on Rainbow once before. We'd fished together a couple times, but one time we met on Rainbow to try some glide bait fishing. And it was one of those days they just didn't want it. And one of the baits I told him to buy was the Gantrell or the Gantrell Jr. And he bought the Junior. And so when he saw me catch that, it's like a 5.5 pounder on the Explorer gill glide bait, he just busted out his swim bait rod that had the Gantrell Jr. on it. And we had fished through this cut once before earlier that day. The wind was blowing really hard, and we were having trolling motor problems, so we were just kind of nudging in and then power pulling down, nudging in, power pulling down. And I could just hear the excitement in his voice when this bass started waking up to him, to his bait. And then, you know, he set the hook, caught the fish, and I mean, you saw how excited he was. We knew that was his new PB. It was just at 7 pounds. So yeah, it's awesome to go to a lake that I kind of know, but to help put a friend on a good fish he'd never caught a swim bait bass before, like not a good one. And it to be his PB all on the first day of a multi-day trip out to Headwaters. I mean, it was pretty awesome. I'll also list his equipment down here. I forgot to get it from him. I know he had the favorite rod, and I know it's a Gantrell Jr. That's all I know. But like I said, I'll list it. That fish was just sitting in a channel, and the wind was blowing from the other side. There's kind of an open area, so it was just pushing water through there. And he was just fishing along the edge of the hydrilla, and he said he saw her wake up to it. I couldn't see it from my angle. But luckily, that's one of the reasons I like the hat cam so much, is that even if somebody else catches a fish, your instinct's to look at it. So I tend to get a lot of footage that way. instead of the chesty where you could, you know, be facing the other way. And I don't know, everybody has a chesty, so I went to the hat cam right away. But yeah, my buddy Greg, new PB, 7 pounds. I think that's, I don't know, I'm losing count of how many of my buddies I've either caught their PB with me in the boat, or I have explained to them the technique that caught their PB. But that's 2 months in a row, because the month before I was with Calvin when he caught his 9-pounder on flipping on Noonan's, his PB. We got to work on Greg's getting up that big. It just means I'm doing something right, or they're doing something right. I'm just glad to be on the boat and know about these guys catching their new personal bests. And that's why I want to start guiding, you know, try to get you guys on some big fish the way I fish. The idea of my guide service there'll be no shiner fishing, basically. We'll go and fish Florida fishing with lures, either swim baits, which would be awesome, but frog fishing, topwater, punching, even worm fishing, because there's ways to do it that we do it here in Florida that are different everywhere else. And if you're coming to Florida, you should know it, or if you learn it here, sometimes it can help inform where you fish elsewhere. So yeah, hopefully I'll get it going soon. We're at bite number 222. This is back down in Denellen. This is actually on the Withlacoochee River, and I was down there working again, and I had my buddy Ronnie with me, working at the same house on the same job I was. And right before dark, we just hopped in my boat and ran across the river, literally 30 seconds away from the house. And I decided to tie on my water vole wake bait. And then this happened. Why don't you watch it and I'll explain. There we go. That's a good fish. That's a really good fish. That's a really good fish, man.
That's a really good fish, man.
Yeah. That might be a 10-pound fish.
Hell yeah. Oh shit.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Oh my God, dude.
Ooh, look at that.
Maybe not 10 pounds, but he's big.
Big. Yeah.
She's big.
Oh yeah.
She's skinny though. But look at that mouth.
Oh wow, dude. Holy shit. That's fucking huge, man. Wow. Dude.
That's not normal for me out here.
Oh my God.
We might not go anywhere. I think I got that all on camera.
Yeah, that's cool.
You'll be in my next video,
Awesome.
or one of my next videos. Okay, you ready to go? That's a big fucking fish. The water vole, man. It's kind of funny because I don't fish rat baits a lot. I tend to catch really big fish when I do catch them on a rat bait. But it was almost 1 year ago to the day that I had caught my first fish on the water vole. Grab it. By Clates Baits. It's like a medium-sized, smallish, medium-sized rat wake bait, or a vole, not a rat. To the day though, a year ago, from when I caught this fish, I caught a 8-pounder that was 24 3/4 inches long, right at sunset, and she had just devoured the bait, like opened up like a whirlpool, like a toilet bowl just opened, and the bait disappeared. And so a year later, sunset bite, totally different body of water, on a river, not a lake. Decided to pick it up, and I fished it through those pads, and she kind of slurped it down, but she's 25.5 inches and just 7 pounds. She's definitely post-spawn, definitely needed something to eat. I felt bad that she didn't get to keep the vole in her stomach. There's something about a rat bite though. I mean, most of the fish I've caught on a rat are 7+ pounders, it seems like. There's not a lot of them because I don't fish it that much. I should fish it more. I think me and Eric, I think me and Eric of Atypical Outdoors should do a rat fish off weekend one day or someday. I'll mention it to him. Or if you're watching, Eric, we need to work on it. But yeah, the water vole. And he saw Ronnie. Ronnie doesn't fish or hasn't fished in a long time, and he was freaking out. It was awesome to have him on the boat and watch that happen. That was like the only real fish I caught that evening. I think I caught a mudfish too, but was that fish. We were only out for like 20, 30 minutes right before dark. But yeah, the water vole. And I was throwing that actually on my jig rod, which I don't normally throw it on, but I didn't have my crankbait rod and my big crankbait rod in the boat. The one I usually would fish it on is this. It's my Fate. It's my 13 Fishing Fate crankbait rod, 7.9 with my Calcutta 100. It's a little, definitely more moderate than my jig rod, but I put on a 17-pound mono-leader. I had 50-pound braid. This bait's big enough that you know, I didn't want to throw it on my normal medium heavy, but I wanted to throw it. I knew I could throw it on this. This rod actually is a good smaller soft swim bait, like moderate size small swim bait rod, smaller in terms of bigger baits, like 6-inch, like the Mag Draft Freestyle or a Big Easy or whatever. I use this rod and reel setup all the time, which is my Corrado Fluoro flipping jig rod, 7.6 medium heavy with a Sitka 250-pound X9 braid, and like I said, I was running it to a 17-pound mono leader. I run my leader about this long, 1 arm's length, which is about 6.5, 7 feet long, which usually means my knot doesn't quite get to the reel. I just have better luck not backlashing with the junction knot between the braid and the leader if it doesn't go into the reel. Some people don't have a problem. I think it depends on your reel and your line and your knot and all that stuff. With a wake bait like that, they're not looking at the line. I just put the line on there as a shock thing and to kind of keep the line out of the hooks, like mono floats too, so on the surface it keeps the line away from the hooks a little better. But yeah, that fish was definitely post-spawn, sitting outside of a spawning flat, right on the edge of current, shallow, right in, I think right after those pads, it goes down to like 12 feet, and it's like 3 feet where she was. It's just crazy that my 2 biggest vole bass were exactly almost 1 year apart. It's like 1 year and 2 days off. I'll show you the picture of both of them. I used this story on my Instagram. Even Clayton Bates responded, they liked it. But yeah, I should have been fishing the Explorer gill, but you know, sometimes you gotta throw the rat. I need to do it more. I actually haven't even caught a fish yet. I had to buy the Mighty Mouse. I've only actually tied it on once, but soon. Number 223 is next. This is me. This is one of my glide bait fish that I caught out on Headwaters with Greg. Why don't you check it out and I'll tell you more about it. He puts out like, and there's this guy, Doug Hannon, the Bass Professor. It's on Rainbow. Oh, I got one. Yeah. It's a good one. Not huge, but it's a good one.
Yeah,
Good.
You definitely want to net on that shit.
That was a net job right there.
Boom, good job, man.
Woo. Yeah, so like I was saying, with the Explorer gill bait sanity thing, the hookup sanity, if I catch 1 or 2 fish early in the day, I feel like I can try other baits. And we were going back over an area I had already caught a fish on the Explorer gill, so I thought I'd try something else. And I picked up or snapped on, here we go, the other bait sanity, one of the other bait sanity baits. This is the Antidote glide bait. This is their 7-inch. This was in last month's Bite of the Day too. This is the one that they blew up on it like a topwater on Rainbow. Also painted my little orange thing. I actually found this the day after I lost it in another river that's pretty clear here in Florida. I went back the day after and I found it just because of that little orange strip, and that's when I decided to put it on all my glide baits. But yeah, I decided to put this on instead of the Explorer Gill because I'd already fished this through there. That's when these snaps are cool. And like I said, I used the clips for the topwater and crankbaits and whatnot, and then I used these snaps, or I used, like, it's an actual clip. This is more like a snap on thing. It's basically a big split ring, but with an easy slide on access. So this one's made by Spro, and Spro split rings were the ones I used to always buy before I found out about Owner Hyperwire ones, and I'd still use them on a lot of my baits just because I can buy them locally. But this little Spro clip just comes undone like that, and then you slide it back on. And that's a 60-pound clip. And like I said, I trust their split rings, and it's basically just a split ring with a little extra bit of wire that points in so that you can slide it on and off without pliers. I know a lot of people don't trust snaps or clips on anything, or especially big baits, but like I said, I don't like loop knots, and I would have put a split ring on here, and I feel like this is just as strong of a split ring. I mean, it's pretty beefy. They definitely make it chunky. And you know, if they start to open up, if I've hooked onto a log or something and pulled on it too hard, I'll just replace it. But it makes it easy to switch between different baits. Like I said, I have two versions of this. I have this one, and then I have a dark bluegill that's sinking. And I can switch between the two instantly without having to retie, between casts even sometimes. Or I can totally switch baits, like I did to this. And I had fished over that same area maybe an hour earlier. It was just super windy, and it was one of the only spots we could find where we could get bit, and it was out of the wind. So we kept ending up back in this little protected area on headwaters. And sure enough, that 6-pounder came up and swallowed it. It was awesome. The water's pretty clear back there because of all the hydrilla. Hydrilla does clean up the water. I mean, you can also choke the water out, but it just, that was the second day, so we had multiple days of glide bait bites. It was a lot of fun. On Greg's brand new boat, we explored all different corners of the lake too. I'm looking forward to going back to headwaters and exploring more of the like really far south stuff. We only kind of stopped in there for a minute. It was so windy, and it was so late in the day when we went down there. Hopefully soon I'll get to go back down there for a few days. So next up is another one of the Hookup Sanity bites. This is actually on the sinking one, a little different. I think one of the other ones earlier was on the sinking one as well, in dark bluegill instead of the jungle perch. Although this jungle perch does look almost identical to the spotted sunfish that lives in Rainbow River. I'll put a picture of it right next to here. Look, see how much they look alike? But a bluegill is a bluegill. And a sinking bait in current can be a deal breaker, or maker in this case. This was a crazy day. My boat almost sank. But before I get all to that, why don't you watch the video and I'll explain to you everything that happened. There we go. That's a good one. Come on. Come on. Whew. this was the day after I finished up the job down in Denellen. I had a day to fish. And I fished in the morning, did okay, but in the afternoon, this thunderstorm, hailstorm rolled in, and I hid in one of the restaurants on the river, on the Withlacoochee River, and where I parked my boat, it turned out there was a hole in the roof in the gutter, and so the water from 2 roofs was just draining into my boat, and I went out there like maybe 10 minutes in the storm. My boat was almost underwater. Ended up killing my Lowrance fish finder and doing all this stuff. Took my tiny bilge pump like almost 2 hours to pump out all the water. But so I went and I changed clothes, got into dry clothes, and I was like, okay, we just got a bunch of rain. Let me find some runoffs into this river, like near trees, near deep water. Yeah, like post thunderstorm Florida fishing is something I love to do. They set up in a way that they don't normally set up, because once there's current coming in, the bluegill or whatever are eating the minnows, they're eating the whatever's floating in. It just becomes like a buffet for everyone. And I had just started fishing after getting back on the water, and this is maybe my 3rd cast right behind that tree, and that 6.5 pounder just nailed it. And I mean, what is that, the 4th 6 pounder I've caught on video so far? There's been a couple that I didn't have my camera on that I caught. I caught an 8 pounder on one on Rainbow that I totally didn't have my camera on. I caught 2 6s and an 8, or a 5, a 6, and an 8 back to back, and I realized my camera was off at the end. But my camera's on for this one, and way to save the day after, you know, almost sinking my boat. But yeah, that's when you want a sinking one in that current, especially because there wasn't any actual cover, like plant, vegetation, weeds. There was a tree that I swam it by, and that's where that fish came out from. Bass love cypress trees. I try to explain this to people. If the bass can get in the trees, they're going to leave the pads in the grass and they're going to go in the trees if they can, if there's food in there. And with the water coming in like that, there's actually kind of a park and 2 little streams that come into the main river right there. And I actually lost a much bigger one later on across the river in a similar situation. Hit right at the boat. I was just swimming it right under a tree looking at it, and this bass just darted out from under the tree. I maybe had 10 feet of line out, and it wasn't enough. She was able to pull off. But yeah, runoff, thunderstorms. If I'm out near the water after a thunderstorm rolls through, I'm out there fishing, because that is one of the best times to fish in Florida, is post thunderstorm. Especially if it's a really intense short one, that's even better, because usually it'll get really calm too, and it drives away all the other people on the water. Yeah, it was a good way to end that series of trips down to Denellen, and like that part of the Hookup Sanity. It's still going. Like I said, I'm still fishing it. Well, to take a little break from all of the swim bait fishing, I actually was doing some more work out at another friend's house who has a lake. I didn't have my boat with me, but I always have my rods with me. So I grabbed a few rods. I grabbed the frog rod and my punching rod and went out this canal, which I've actually launched my boat in. But since the last time I've been there, a lot more coontail and cover had grown in. So I was like, let me try to fish it. But why don't you watch this flipping off the bank fish I caught. Yeah, number 225, bite of the day. Flipping, actually it was a kinky beaver. I have a man bear pig on there, but it was one of these. You've seen it before. This is my flipping setup, my other Corrado. It's 7.7 flipping, punching with the SLX MGL 70. If you go back to the recap from January and February, I break down this combo and set up even with a Kinky Beaver, same hook, same weight. But I was bank fishing this day. Most people don't know that I grew up bank fishing, and most of my time around here is hard to get access to good bank fishing. So I have a boat, so I use my boat. But I do love to bank fish. And it's a lot of fun to just flip into that coontail and watch that wake and feel the bump, set the hook and catch that. I mean, she wasn't quite 4 pounds, but it was a lot of fun. And got to show it to my friend who lives right there. He was shocked. Bank fishing. Or bank flipping, something you shouldn't overlook if you're fishing from the bank, because when we're on a boat, a lot of times we're trying to flip as close to the bank as we can. So if you're on the bank and you have access to that cover, definitely bring your flipping stuff or pitching stuff and punching stuff. Punching too, like from the bank, it's a lot of fun. Well, I'm running out of batteries. Let me try to get this last one in, and it is another one of the Hookup Sanity. I know you guys have seen a bunch of these. But this was actually on a spot where I had lost a big fish a year earlier on the snack size bluegill by JSJ. So I was like, what the hell? Let me go out there and fish the Bait Sanity Explorer Gill. Why don't you watch bite 226 here and we'll finish it up.
There we go. That's a good one.
Little blood in there, but so yeah, here I am on Lake Alto, notoriously difficult lake. Haven't had a lot of luck with swim baits on there. In fact, this might be the second swim bait fish I've ever caught out there. But that was again on the darker sinking version, and on the other side of the same bit of grass and pads that a year earlier I was using the JSJ snack size bluegill wake bait, which is the same size. And I had this total monster blow up and totally came out of the water, but totally missed the bait. So I knew that it was around where bluegill were spawning. And like I said, that was kind of a cool thing about doing this tournament when they did it, is that this is when the bluegill were spawning. And I was targeting all those kind of transition points of grass and pads near where I think the bluegill might be spawning, just on the outside. I got one other bite that day, and one other small fish as well, but on the glide bait. I ended up switching to topwater and having a lot of fun with that. But yeah, I love topwater. What haven't we not talked about this combo and this setup for this tournament? Like I said, having the right rod, the right reel, even the right handle can make a difference. I use 65-pound braid not because I don't think the fish will break me off. I don't want to cast off my lures. That's something I haven't talked about. If you fish big swim baits, you're going to break off lures from a backlash because this braid doesn't stretch, or if you're even fishing fluoro or mono, 20, 25 pound, it happens. Braid to leader, 65 pound to 30 or 20 pound leader, seems to keep it down to a minimum to me. But that's also one of the reasons I put that fluorescent strip on everything, is it gives me a chance to maybe find that bait, especially if it's a floating bait or if it's in super clear water, if it's not a floating bait. Don't try to skimp on the line. It'll cost you money in baits. And that's why Another people don't like the clips is that, you know, it makes you not retie, but I check my line throughout the day, and it's a lot easier to retie a clip than a whole bait. You just unclip it, retie the clip, and you don't lose as much line. Because I use a Palomar knot, you have to loop it around the bait. That's how you end up shortening your leader throughout the day. So there's still, what, 1 more month basically of this hookup sanity, and there's going to be more fish already. I know, actually, even Saturday's bite of the day is another 6-pounder I caught. But hopefully I won't have to keep putting more than 1 month recap into one. My life has been crazy. I'm having to move my wood metal shop. I don't know. It's life, right? I'm still catching fish, still making videos, just hard to get these longer format videos done. Hopefully I got it all this time, and my phone keeps it all, my camera records it all. If not, I guess I'll be re-recording this again. There we go. As always, I'm Ted from Ted Liggins Fishing Life. Thanks for checking out this recap of, what was it? I already forgot. April and May of 2022. It was a good 2 months. Hopefully I'll win this tournament. I'm in the lead of the hookup sanity last time I looked at least as far as I can tell. I'm close if I'm not. So wish me luck. I'm Ted from Ted Liggins Fishing Life, and I'm out.